And it's live, so here we go. I'm Ben Bates,
I'm Chris Staggs.
and what are we trying to do here?
Oh man, we're trying to explore stories and storytellers to learn about the art of storytelling, to improve and be able to tell better stories ourselves, and learn from people that have done it before us, and be
Exactly.
and share that information and hopefully useful insights.
Yes, and not to be too negative, and not just to be positive. And negativity is something that I'm quite good at. So it will be a constant effort to remind myself to also find the positivity here. Okay,
For sure.
so
Well,
go
I
ahead.
will say, I would say, like, there's a difference between being sort of like negative and sort of pointing out things that could be better, or just giving a
Yes, I don't
fair
want
critique.
to
You know,
exactly like the I want to find what works and what doesn't, even if it's just for me, right? Like if maybe something uh, is a personal issue, but why is that? And then if there is something that you and I both find that we believe is not necessarily good storytelling, not to just point that out, but to find a solution that could have worked better. Something that Miyazaki said in his book Starting Point is anybody can make a critique, but it takes more effort to find a solution. Or anybody can criticize, but it takes more effort to find a solution for it. So we don't want to just criticize. We want to try and push ourselves to, especially myself, push myself to find an answer that would have worked. Okay,
definitely.
so we're gonna do. Oh, unless you got more.
Oh, I was just agreeing.
Okay, so we're gonna do Aliens. This is from 1989, Dark Horse comic book, issue number 1, number 1 of 4 of the miniseries. I tried to find basically where Dark Horse started as
Mm,
much as I could, and with the Aliens property, and I don't know if this is actually the start. Um, it's possible that. Do you know what Dark Horse Presents is?
yeah.
Okay, so it's possible that they started in Dark Horse Presents with this sort of kind of backstory-ish sort of exploration thing. And I read a
Yeah.
little bit of it in this other omnibus, and then it went into another story that wasn't this story. So that I don't know. I don't know if this is the beginning or that's the beginning or whatever. But either way, we're going with this because I'll tell you that other one was extremely boring. Even after the Dark Horse Presents, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a slog for both of us." And so I didn't read this one until just a couple hours ago, which is the same for you, right?
Yes. Yep.
So it was just hoping that it was better than the previous thing I found. And now let's find out if that's the case. So just talking with this cover first and foremost, like, um, actually, let's. So have you ever read any of the Alien comics in your lifetime at all?
Uh, I think I read some. Mike Mignola did one, Alien
Mm.
Salvation, and I think I read it. I bought it. I can't remember. I think I did, or I started reading. I don't know. I can't remember if I
Do you
actually.
know if he wrote it too?
I don't think he wrote it. No.
Okay. So I've always had a. First of all, I love the Aliens movies or the
Mm,
concept, right? 1 and 2, and I can see some value in number 3. But uh, my buddy, when I was like 7 or 8, my buddy had a whole bunch of the aliens in like Alien versus Predator comics and stuff. And especially for that like age, um, I'd already seen the movies. I watched a ton of scary movies when I was young, stuff that obviously 5-year-olds probably shouldn't be watching or something. So I was already very familiar with the Aliens and Predator properties.
mm,
And so getting to see those two worlds collide was extremely exciting. But then the promise of like these expanded narratives, like the one that I remember the most as a kid was it was the Alien versus Predator, and it must have been like the final issue where this girl, this human girl, a woman, and the Predator were working together to take down this queen, alien queen, and I
mm.
think they used the elevators to like cut its head off or something like that, and then they had it mounted somewhere, and I think the alien, not the Predator, used an alien finger, like a severed alien finger, and kind of like touched the acid to her forehead in order to like mark her as a sign of like respect for saying like,
Mm.
hey, you did, you're a human and you did awesome.
Yeah.
Um, And so from that point on, I've always been extremely excited about the Aliens comics and the Predator comics, for that matter. I did try the Predator comics a couple years ago. They started with a miniseries, and it was very bad. It was a bummer. It was like really, really. Oh, actually, I want to. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. I'm glad this led into that naturally. So when I was first getting started as a professional comic artist in 2010, I was in Portland, Oregon, which is where Dark Horse is located, and because of that proximity and being part of Periscope Studio, I was like always kind of interacting with the Dark Horse people in one way or another, and that's where I actually got my 100% like first professional comic gig was in Dark Horse Presents, and they were doing around that same time. They were pursuing or about to launch or something the Legend of no Avatar: The Last Airbender comic books. Did you ever watch Avatar: The Last Bender, the animated series? Okay, so okay, so I don't mind the first season of Korra, but I really love the whole 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah. And I had just discovered it. Basically, I was talking my buddy Jeremy Barlow, who was a Dark Horse editor, but he had quit by that time and become a freelance comic book writer. And he knew about the Avatar comics, and so he was, I don't know, he was familiar with the animated series. I always avoided it because I thought it was just American anime, and I didn't want to watch that trash. But he talked me into it, and I instantly fell in love. You know, like the first episode has some type of like classic Nickelodeon humor, where like one of the characters is like, "Your smelly socks. I hate doing your laundry," or this giant buffalo or sky bison sneezes on somebody, gets them all covered in snot. But that kind of stuff doesn't really occur again. That kind of like classic Nickelodeon humor. And it gets more and more into its actual true storytelling and what it actually is as the seasons go on. And it doesn't take very long for that to kick in. So I fell in love with it and was, you know, kicking myself for being like, oh man, I could have been watching this, you know, because I think it came out like 2007 or something like that. So it had been out for 3 years already. Yeah. But because the comic books were, you know, Dark Horse is going to get the comic book licensing, my buddy Jeremy wanted to write those comics, and he was like, "You should draw them. You know, we should do a portfolio and send it in, to see if they'll let us be the comic book people." And I got very excited about it and did a bunch of art to try and capture the characters and the style and all that sort of stuff. And we didn't stand a chance because they hired this fantastic Japanese duo they go by the pen name Gurihiru. Do you know who Gurihiru is? Well, they're very, very skilled artists. Now, I don't know who wrote it, but they were the artists. So they were a stat, like they did, you know, tons of comic book with the big two and all that sort of stuff. So it's like there was no way that some no-name artist like me was going to win out over their skills and reputation. But that was about the time where the seeds sort of started getting planted, right? Where I was watching the animated series. I loved what I was seeing. And I thought, okay, but Jeremy and I are going to do the comic book. We don't know, aside from watching the show, we don't know anything. We don't talk to the creators. We don't get any insight into where they're going with any of these storylines or anything like that. What it propelled, them to create this in the first place. And the more I worked in the comic industry, the more I started realizing how much of an issue that was for me. That's what the majority of comic books are, right? If they're licensed from something, is that they have absolutely no guidance most of the time from the actual creators. So they're just making stuff up. And hopefully the creators are at least trying. You know, Jeremy and I would have tried very hard to be accurate to it, but we would have been just strangers creating inside the universe. And that really bothers me to a degree that I actually don't like. I've come pretty hard on that, where I don't care if somebody is creating supplemental material and has no actual knowledge of the original intentions or creation. Like, yeah, maybe they do a good job, maybe they don't. I don't care. So in this case, Aliens, I'm giving a pass because of my childhood interest to try and see if somebody who has no guidance can actually create something worth paying attention to, experiencing. So cover number 1, I'm drawn in. I love this cover. Makes me excited.
It's a great cover, man.
What?
When I saw it, I actually was like, I was thinking like, dude, we should you know, it made me want to draw, right? Like I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that's extreme. Like that's what a great comic book in general should do. You know, get you
yeah,
fired up about creating and stuff. You know, there is some critiques here that I have. So just recently, I was pushing myself to try and like draw the xenomorph for the first time in my life.
mhm,
Like I've never really paid attention to the details of it,
yeah,
and there is perhaps some artistic interpretation here of the fingers and the feet. So the alien designed by Giger has it like multiple fingers that kind of stick together,
hmm
and I don't know how many it has on its hand, but let's just look it up. Let's do that real quick. Let's do xenomorph. And here's part of the trouble of modern day world is I just want to explore the original aliens. I don't want to get bogged down with all this garbage from the modern day
right.
creations and
I
stuff.
think I
Okay,
think I have an art of book for Alien.
really?
Maybe Aliens as well. I know it. Yeah, it's got like a lot of the movie, um, production stuff in it.
That's cool. I bought the not too long ago. I bought the Walt Simonson comic book adaptation. You ever seen that?
Oh, Alien?
Yeah, of the first movie.
Maybe a long time ago.
It's first of all, it's dynamite. It's amazing how well he's adapting. Like because it's 1979 or yeah, 1979. I'm pretty sure when it came
Oh,
out, and what access does he have to I don't know. Like for I know for example, my buddy Dustin Weaver, he did the comic book adaptation of Peter Jackson's King Kong back in 2005, and to
mm,
do that comic book, it was like super secretive. Like he was living down in Orange County at the time, and he was brought into Universal Studio and put into this office, if I remember correctly, and they gave him a binder that had
yeah.
all these like stills from and production stuff from the movie, and they said you can't take a picture of this, so anything you look at you just have to memorize and then go home and try and draw it, right? So like
Really?
that's how he had to create the official adaptation of the movie, and
Wow.
thankfully his brain is particularly powerful, and so he was able to do quite a bit with that. And then at the time, he just while we're on that subject really quickly, even though this is his story, if you go and look back at that comic book, the King Kong comic by Dark Horse, he was originally told that he could use the likenesses of the actors, like Jack Black, for example, and
hmm
later on, Universal denied that, and so rather than having Dustin changed it, Dark Horse or somebody in later production went in and digitally just started like squeezing and like stretching faces and stuff. So it looks really, really bad. So in the late 70s, when Walt Simonson is hired to adapt this, what the heck does he have? I don't know. Is he watching them? Like, are they being more generous and he's actually be able to like pause the movie reels and stuff? And like, because I don't know if VHS existed at that point. I don't know what he was working, but he did a fantastic job. The one thing that's particularly interesting about it, though, is how enormous he makes the alien. It's like way bigger than it is in the movie. And
Yeah.
it's an interesting idea, but it's also not accurate, and so
Right.
it's bothers me some. Anyway, what we're looking at with the alien, right, is that it has multiple hands. Now or multiple fingers, more than the human hand. And we see this photo here of Giger holding it up, and the fingers are actually separated. But I think in the appropriate version, they're always like that, where they're kind of sticking together.
hmm
And so we also have this extra digit off, like let's say a secondary thumb or something like that on each side of it.
Yeah.
So when we look at this original comic, the cover here, it's missing the additional thumb off the side, but it could be interpreted where the artist was saying like, okay, but what if I didn't have a human inside of this? If the intention was to actually have not human hand, if I'm not limited, maybe I can actually make it more otherworldly. And he
hmm
does the same thing with the feet here. It's hard to see here, but this is not what the xenomorph's feet look like. The xenomorph's feet are very, very humanoid as well, the original one. I mean, you can see any of these, right?
It's like I think I saw one in high heel shoes or something over there.
So it's just an interesting, like, it makes me curious because I mean, the xenomorph has so many freaking details to it. Right now, he did a great job with the head. Like a lot of these details are very accurate. I'm not sure if the head has these. It does have these, like, I don't know what you would call them. This, let's just say piping for just get through this quickly.
Tubercles.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if they extend out like that in the actual design, but that's an interesting choice. So I'm not sure how much he was being like, you know what, I'm going to deviate here on purpose, or you know what, I don't know what that actually looks like, and so I'm just going to make up these hands and feet as I go. Because once again, what access did this guy have, right? Like, who knows what he was given back in, because the cover, the signature says 87 right there. And now the actual comic book would be published in 1990, but this cover was done 3 years prior. So I don't know what this cover, like, I don't know if that's how long they had tried to work on the comic. I don't know why. I don't know who. It doesn't even tell me in the credits who did the cover, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was trying to decipher the signature there. I know that Dave Dorman did a bunch of Alien, like, painted stuff. I believe.
I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Okay, yeah, but I don't think that's his signature.
I was trying to tell, like, so we have the art, which is also painted inside the actual comic book, and so Bovis, Dennis Bovis.
Oh, that's who painted it, right? Because isn't that DB on the cover?
Well, that's what I was. You're probably right. That's probably a D and a B. Okay, so he painted the cover as well as the interior, and since it's all painted, it's an interesting. I didn't look into any of the production to find out how long this took,
Yeah.
But so now we're moving into the actual page one, and so page one, I always do my 2-panel test. Like, so if we don't read the things, we should read the things. The 2 panels are not. It's not about just the art. It's about what's being told in the story itself. So we got the first panel, though. We have a spaceship. And it says, in space, you begin to understand the true nature of immortality. One of the things that I don't particularly like about comic books is if it doesn't start with, like, just getting story going right off the bat. And I should learn what the proper terminology for this is. There's usually I think of it as being as like the writer trying to be literary, where they talk philosophically or poetically or something like that, and I tend to really dislike that because it's a way of not really engaging in the story and trying to allude to higher art in ways that it's not exclusive to comic books. A lot of movies will start that way too. Movies will start with a narration where a character talks, and the character will say, and I got this from Script Notes, actually. It's a podcast by these 2 screenwriters. They had an episode where they discussed how unnatural a lot of that kind of writing is when a narration takes over. When a character says, people say that the sky is like lava under the ocean or something like that. And, they accurately point out, who says that? Why would they say that? Right? Yeah, it sounds all fancy in regards of, like, the writer who's sitting there like, oh, I'm such a genius. I'm writing such cool stuff. But it's not real, right? Nobody actually says that dumb stuff. But in the case of this comic book, I'm okay with the start of that first caption. In space, you begin to understand the true nature of immortality. And then it moves on. Out here, spatial and temporal concerns seem trivial, insignificant. We're 15 days out from Earth. It might as well be years. I don't mind, because first of all, it's not saying some dumb saying that nobody actually says. It's not trying to be too high-minded. I do think that a human could, while you're staring out into the vastness of space, you probably could start thinking, about some deep thoughts or something like that. And it's giving us, because, in the original Alien movie, the ships don't move fast. They're not like Star Wars zipping around and stuff, right? Like, and so I get the sense that this, ship is probably not going too quickly. And so to have a story where we're in the mind of a character talking about, something a little deeper, it gives it a nice pace, right? Like, we're not moving too quickly. We're thinking about this in a little bit of a depth. So I think that all works really well. And then we move into the second panel, which is closing into the cockpit. It says the main antenna was still picking up fragments of Earth orbit satellite transmissions. Took days for the signals to reach us. It was like watching shadows. Now that's where it gets a little too fancy for my taste. A little too. It's like watching shadows. Whatever.
Well,
Mostly. Go ahead. What do you got? You love it?
I mean, I think it's okay.
It's okay.
I mean,
I just don't like it. I don't like
descriptive. You know, it's a little. But I think it illustrates, like, you know, the idea pretty well.
Yeah, it does. I just don't. It's a personal thing. I'm not. That's a good point. It's a personal thing. Anytime anybody starts getting fancy, I'm pretty much like, I don't care. Fancy with your writing, trying to impress me. All right, mostly pre-records, digital chips, mag carts, but occasionally we get something live off the bounce. What do you think mag carts are?
I was gonna ask you if you knew what that was. Mag carts. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what digital chips are either, unless it means like. Yeah, I don't understand it in that context.
So that one I could. So first of all, I think both of them are probably made up, and they do what they're supposed to do. They make us think, okay, this is the future. This is other technology that we don't know about, but it's comfortable to him. He knows what he's talking about. But the digital chips, I can quickly guess at something, right? I create something in my mind. I think of like the little like distortions on the screen, like pixels or something like that, like digital information, but just like maybe bits of it, a chip of a piece of it, digital information. That's what starts painting in my head. Now, whether that's what the writer had in mind, who knows? But mag carts, I immediately thought, I was like, well, maybe magnetic. Maybe it's not so much information as it's like referring to some sort of distortion of the information or something. That's how I started painting it in my mind of like, space. Maybe there's some distortion, some sort of interference, preventing them from getting the full information that was maybe, intended to be blasted out there. All right, occasionally we get up something else. Now, that said, with those two panels, and this is what I want to stress all the time with my like 2-panel test, is that the story simply has to be story needs to start. It doesn't have to be the most engaging thing or the exciting thing. It doesn't need to start with an explosion, like the News Crusaders issue 1 that I had the dubious honor of drawing. Story needs to begin. So if you scratched all of this dialogue and it was just visual, just panel 1, spaceship, panel 2, trucking into the cockpit, I'm intrigued enough, right? This is story saying. It is saying, here is our location. Here we're moving into our main character, and we have this the information of where he's at. That's good enough, and that's information that I feel I would go to the third panel. I'd be like, okay, cool. I know this is a space comic. I know this is aliens. I'm going to meet my main character. I can't wait to find out who it is.
Yeah. Well, it's literally drawing you in with the art. So
exactly.
Yeah. Although these are maybe the worst scans I've ever seen of a comic. I want to see the original.
You've seen the original. You want to?
I want to, because I don't know how much of it is like the way the original art looked versus this copy of the book.
I am at least excited that we're getting what is, I'm guessing, is a literal scan of the original comic book. So at least we're seeing the actual art, not a new digital remaster or something like that. So at least in that regard, I'm pretty into it. All right, so then we move to so interesting page. Technically, panel 3 has no dialogue, right? These two captions are tied to panel 1, and then we move to panel 3. And so we're not really getting new information, except for that, we can now see clearly that he's smoking. But I have no idea who that is. You know what I mean? Like, we've moved close enough to have some clarity on the face. I have no idea if that's a character that we're supposed to recognize. So there's actually no new information in panel 3, but we're moving closer. Finally, panel 4. The images burn like fire, but they've all I've got left. This is a great close-up of the alien mouth. Like I said, I was trying to look at it recently to learn how to actually draw it, and there's so many details about what makes the alien, And so it has these I don't know, muscle or some sort of ligament or something like that actually let me get let's go over here instead of me describing it. How we just look at it?
So
See if we can get a nice clear scene of it. There we go. Is this the original one, or is this? I just hate that we have to try and fight our way through some of the modern day garbage that's being made. But this is good enough for our purposes here, where hopefully you can see it has like part of the mouth going, this organic element going here, and then crisscrossing with this other stuff going back, right?
Yeah.
Just an interesting detail rather than like our face, which is covered in this nice skin. It's got these different pieces of information. Now, is this more accurate to the original one? Because in this case, we're not really seeing that level of literally just like pieces of organic tissue. It looks more like a cheek.
Right.
I don't know. But either way, if we look back at the issue, he studied that, right? Now this probably is like just really a still out of like the actual frame, but nonetheless, it's there. We're seeing an alien. All right, then we move to panel. Have we got the link? Have we got? Yeah, do it. And then new information. Dead people. There's an alien corpse. There was no reason or pattern to the transmissions. Whatever we picked up came in through sheer chance. Okay, so I just want to stop right here and say, is this when you were reading this, was this working for you? The narrative, the story? Is this compelling?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to keep reading? Me too.
I kept reading. Okay, kept reading.
These last desperate signals would travel forever into the far reaches of space, random electronic bits of human reality, preserved for eternity. See, I like all of that because it is getting me to think about, and maybe this is just what is personally interests me. One of the things that I have been intrigued by is just the idea of signals being sent out into space and how long they'll travel, or how long it takes things, like the light of the stars for us to, you know about more about space than I do, so maybe you can confirm or deny. The light we see of the stars has been traveling for who knows how long, right? Like those stars are so far away that it's taking time for us to see it. It's not like those stars are like like we're not seeing them in real time or something like that.
Yeah, it takes like 8 minutes from the sun, right, to get to Earth.
I don't know if I ever knew that, and if I did, I forgot.
Minutes.
But that's an interesting, so like the idea that light's one thing, but the idea of human information, whether it just be like, when I Love Lucy was broadcast originally, and if those signals were sent out into space and they're just traveling for who knows how long, and like part of it starts getting excited, like, okay, well, what about the reverse? What if there's been an alien, and they're just like showing their television shows, but eventually, or their radio stations or whatever, and eventually those will start coming into Earth, like into our ability to pick them up. Like it starts getting really exciting, And so when you think about it in the context of this, that this character is picking up random information, and obviously a lot of this random information is terrible information, right? It's the suffering and death of humans. Like that makes that much more powerful. So I'm really digging this. All right, we get little, what's like random things. We get some guy who's maybe, well, he's saying, "Thank you, Lord." Who knows what he's saying that about? Because clearly the alien's about to get him. Like there's even the hand going over the shoulder here. So I don't know what he's thinking precisely. And then, please, if you're picking this up, Charlotte has been completely overrun. We're running low on food and drinking water. The bodies have been left to rot. Diseases. So we know things are just going real bad. And it seems like aliens are part of the problem, right? Like it's not just the aliens are maybe overrunning everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, now let's just talk about art real quick. This computer screen, that is rendered fantastically. I believe that that's a real digital, screen displaying staticky information. That looks great. And this is part of what being a comic book artist is, right? Like most artists are so obsessed with character, or especially the face, right? Like all they want to do is draw the face over and over, and then of course the rest of the character. But like as a comic book artist, you have to draw everything. And in this case, where he's doing his own like colors painting, he has to bring all of this to life himself. So he has to be interested in representing every piece of information, right? He can't just love the human face.
Sure. Yeah, this guy's good. Good painter. Like he did a great job with the, you know, capturing the glow of the
Yeah,
monitor and um,
the just the atmosphere inside the the actual spaceship itself, like
mhm.
it looks like the movie. You know what I mean? Like the low
Yeah,
lighting and stuff.
yeah. His backgrounds are really convincing.
Yes, I would say the backgrounds are actually the best,
Yeah, better
especially
than
as we
the
move forward. I'm not super thrilled with the character work all the time.
right. Yeah.
It says through our machines, even mankind's destruction would endure in a perverse sort of immortality. As time passed, live transmissions were less frequent. What remained were static images generated from automatic sources. I'm not going to read all of this, but it goes into talk about just the cameras that it still exist. Um, Another shot of back to our man thanking the Lord before he gets killed or as he gets killed. Static, more in there's another dead alien there and dead people, so we know more chaos with the aliens is happening.
Hmm.
He says, all that technology, and for what possible reason? Who was watching? Explanations were lost in the devastation. When the automatic signal stopped, I knew it was over. He says, Jesus Christ, what have we done? So here's the part of the problem. This is issue 1 of 4, right? But what we're seeing is this information from a is this from the Dark Horse Presents? Is this from another issue or something? Like, is this the beginning of this story, or is this picking up off another story?
Yeah, I
Because
don't know. Well, it also like it has a newt in it too. So
yes. So now we're gonna okay. So we'll jump ahead a little bit here. We're introduced to Newt. This is her for the first time, and in this one, they've decided to age her up from being a little girl into an actual grown woman, um, which is a choice. It's like why? Why did they do
uh,
that?
yeah, I wasn't sure if like I didn't remember like how things ended or something, but you know, um, did I miss that? Like where she went from like being a little girl to because you know what actually like I remember hearing that I think that they wanted to have her be in maybe Aliens or in a sequel and they wanted her to be aged up and it didn't happen or something.
So that's where this gets. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying maybe they didn't completely scrap that. They just put it in the comic.
It could be. We don't know what potential information Dark Horse is actually provided with. And this is before Alien 3 is created, right? So 1986, Aliens comes out, introduces the character Newt. We leave that movie, that storyline, with Hicks, Newt, and Ripley, I'm pretty sure, being the only survivors as they
Hmm.
go off into space. And this is where, like, let's say maybe Dark Horse was given some, like you said, they were like, hey, or maybe it's just out in pop culture, that at the time people are talking about potential ways that Aliens, the next movie, is going to be. Or like most of the comic book people, they have no access whatsoever to the people who are creating this, and they just have to start making stuff up. And so they, for whatever reason, Newt gets aged up. And this is so we have the blue captions, we have yellow now, which I guess maybe just as a longtime comic book reader, I intuitively understood this was a different person talking now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Even though, like, here we see this character with his hand on his head, and if you look in the background, we know that's him back there still. So we
Hmm.
haven't like totally shifted, but we now are introduced to 2 new characters, and we know because of the different color that we're likely in the mind of a different person. And this
Yeah.
person says, I should have guessed the first time I was with him. Everything was so perfect. And now we can, guess ahead of time that this is Newt talking or thinking or whatever.
Hmm.
And we're introduced to another character right here with his dialogue. We've come out of gravity drive, but I have no idea what that means. There's no way into the navigational system without the access codes. What the hell kind of ship is this? Okay, so this is working still at this point. I guess spoiler, I'm going to say I don't end up liking this comic book because it stops working pretty quickly. But right now it's still working because it's created a couple mysteries, right? We know that things have gone horribly wrong. The aliens are destroying lots of places. This guy says, if you're picking up, Charlotte has been completely overrun. I assume Charlotte is referring to another ship, but it could be a town on Earth or something. You know what I mean? Maybe this is
I read
all
it as
Earth,
I read it as the city.
as the actual city on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we don't know that for sure, right? We just know that stuff is happening and the aliens are running amok in a broad sense. But it could be that they have literally overtaken the Earth. And so when we come up with our characters here, he says we come out of gravity drive, but I don't know what it means. He has no control of the ship, basically. They don't even know what the ship is. So it raises an interesting mystery. Like, well, if they don't know what the ship is, how do they not know how they got there? Right? Like, are they waking up basically, because we know how Alien works. They woke up out of like cryo sleep and they're sort of discovering their situation. Are these guys basically like, whoa, what the heck? We're on a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? I don't know. That's good. I want to find out as a reader. I want to continue forward to see. Apparently, it turns out, I'm not going to read all this. Newt is attracted to, in love with this man. She starts making the moves on him, but so she says, God, I love you so much. He says, don't, please, Newt, don't. So he is not into it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But did you notice right away in this panel, missing his lower half?
Yeah, I actually didn't.
Did you notice
it until later?
Okay, so when you said later, when did later come?
It might be the next page.
Okay, so
no, it's a couple pages later when he starts he pulls himself along the floor.
Okay, so because most comic book readers, they're casually absorbing the visual information, and our eyes. So from what I've heard is that the human eye is lazy, and if there's a bunch of color, it'll go to white first, because that's the easiest thing for it to process. And so by having the white word balloons, not only is our eye attracted to them, but we also know that that's really our key information. That's where we need to read. And so if we just bounce, we see God, I love you. So we move to this one, we absorb that she's moving in close to him, and we move over here, here, and here, and then up to this next one. Because when I was reading this, I just casually absorbed the visual information that he kind of like, pushed her away and she backed off. And I just moved right past. And it was right here when it says he was an android, a construct. Then my eye went back. I was like, oh, there's his guts. And so I was like, oh, so yeah, my mind was able to just basically smooth, or obviously the same thing for you, except for I caught it quicker than you did. So it turns out she's in love with an android. And then she goes to sleep, or goes to go to sleep. I had to keep my mind on our situation. Everything about this ship was wrong. Okay, actually, let me jump back here. So he says, don't. And then she says, I'm going to go get some rest. He's like, Newt, I'm sorry. I still don't understand everything that's happened to me. So perhaps he didn't realize he was an android is kind of the vibe I'm getting here. Like, because she's making a big deal about how she likes him. And it turns out he's not a real dude. And just that dialogue, I was like, oh, he didn't realize he was an android. That's an interesting problem to have, because in Alien and Aliens, the android characters are both clearly aware that they're not human. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's my interpretation of what he's saying there. All right, so she says, I have to keep my mind on our situation. Everything about this ship was wrong. Now, I like that too, because we're still in the mystery stage, right? Like, they don't know why they're on this ship, and everything is wrong about it. Well, that's compelling, right? I know I'm in the Alien universe. This probably isn't safe. Now, here's part of what gets weird. So my only experience with Newt is a little girl in the movie.
Yeah.
And so to move into her older and wearing not much, just a couple, like her underwear and a t-shirt to going to sleep, this feels weird to me. That's why I'm not thrilled with the aging up this character, because I don't know Newt as a woman. I know Newt as a girl. And so I'm like, that's who I have in my head. That's who I know I like. I don't know if I like thinking of her as a full mature woman. Okay, so she says pre-programmed navigation, no weapons, capable of receiving communication, but not transmitting. What the hell were they doing? Now, all of that's more compelling. Interesting. Mm-hmm. The room started to feel hot. I could feel the sweat sliding down my back, moist and sticky. Weird. Then she goes to sleep. Hicks! Jesus, you frightened me. Everything frightens you, Rebecca. Because it's in quotations, it feels sinister to me. I don't know. Did you read it that way? Or does it come across that way to you?
Well, it kind of, yeah, but it's also like the way everything is staged too, you know.
Yes, we go describe it. Tell me why.
Well, I mean, just that, you know, the way he's positioned, and she's kind of like, you know, in a vulnerable state, and then right after that, you know, he's
He's
aggressively like coming
yes.
at her, you know, which is like, hey,
So
good,
clearly the artist is doing a good job because that's what's
yeah,
supposed to be told, right? That's
right,
that you're supposed to get all of that. He says, when you were little, you were afraid of death. Later, you were afraid of living. I don't love that line.
yeah,
He says, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about? You've always been afraid of me. Perhaps that thing, or perhaps you prefer that thing on the flight deck to someone truly human. Why is that, Newt? Explain it to me. And then she says, why are you doing this? He says, ugh, because I'm everything you fear. Passion, love, humanity. I can't take any of this seriously. Like before this started, like this panel is where I stopped taking things seriously, right? Like I do not love what like so I'm all on board for everything until we get here. Now there's multiple reasons why. The first time I see this panel, I accept that this is happening in reality, but in this panel I immediately realize this isn't real. Like how
right.
quickly did you realize this was a dream when you were reading this?
Right around that same area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's not totally out of character for Hicks.
right, because of the movie. We don't know that in the context of this comic book, but we know who Hicks is in the movie, and we know this isn't how he would behave. But it's also, this is not like how a real human talks, right? And so it's his character not behaving how we know, plus this bizarre dialogue that he's saying. We know that this is no longer real. And my personal, I hate dreams in most storytelling. Like most storytelling, dreams are an abuse of where they realize that their story is really boring and they're like, oh man, it's going to keep being boring for a long time. I better put a dream in here so that something exciting happens, but no consequence of that happens, right?
Yeah.
So right here, it bursts out, and ostensibly that's exciting with no repercussions. So she just wakes up and says, oh my God, the dreams again. All right, cool. I'm glad we wasted my time. This, once again, because of Newt is a little girl to me, I am very uncomfortable with this this particular panel. It's just, I don't think of her as a woman. I see like a 9-year-old girl or something like that, right? So, oh, I gotta remember to turn these alarms off. Okay. So she says, oh my God, the dreams again. They're here. She goes running out. Hicks, the aliens, they're on board. Okay, so now this is the second strike for me. Newt possibly the story is indicating that Newt has some sort of ability to dream and realize that aliens are around. I don't like that. That is completely inappropriate to the alien universe. The alien universe is like, realistic, believable science fiction. And now suddenly we're going to add dream bullshit in. No, thank you.
Yeah.
And then now we know this was Hicks up here, and he says, Christ, Newt, they're dead, like Earth, like us. Well, now we have confirmation of what you thought. You thought Charlotte was the town. Apparently it was the town. She says, maybe you're burned. I really hate this dialogue. Maybe you're burned out. Maybe you want to die. Not me. Not by one of those things. Like, I just despise. First of all, that's not really how I believe humans would talk. And also it's telling us something about Hicks as a character now that doesn't jive with the character I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so in the movie, Hicks was cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, and now apparently he's in a place where he's burned out and wants to die. Like, I didn't come to this comic book for that Hicks. I wanted to see if Hicks is going to be in it, I very much want the Hicks that I saw in the movie.
Right.
And then this dude, the android, says, they're just bad dreams, Newt. We've been in space for weeks. Why would they wait until now? Meaning the aliens. Why would the aliens wait until now to, attack or start doing anything? She says, I don't know nothing about this ship. Oh, I don't know. Nothing about this ship makes sense, but it's more than just dreams. I can feel them. They're waiting. Once again, no thank you. That's not what I want out of my alien storytelling. I don't want Newt having special powers or something like that. Says, you're not going to let it go, are you? All right. You want to play soldier? I'll play soldier. Now, is he handing her a gun? Is she shoving the gun at him?
Yeah, so I was just looking at. It looks like she's giving him the gun, but I don't know where it was.
So it's right here. He's carrying it on his back. It's strapped. So he's offering the gun to her, and she's taking it. But it's just a weird way of.
Oh, are you sure? Because in the next panel, he's got it. Yeah,
Oh, what?
I think she
right.
takes it off his back and gives it to him.
Okay, so she's running with the gun here. Oh, so it's not over his shoulder. That's her carrying the gun still.
Oh, I see.
It's in
Yeah,
this hand
okay,
as she's grabbing him. So this is her handing the gun to him, and he's taking it. Yeah. All right.
Well, hey, in our defense, I think that again, these scans aren't like super great.
Yes. Okay. So here we go. All right. I just realized I'm criticizing this stuff. I'm not saying how to make it better. So let's jump back real quick. Okay. 1, don't age Nude up. That's what I would do. Keep her as a little girl because that's who I want. Or she could be 10. If she was 9 in the movie, she's 10 now. If she was 11, she's 12.
I feel like we're missing something with all of that too. Also, like I mean, it's Hicks, it's the android. Like it doesn't pay off to be an android in the Alien universe because apparently they all get ripped in half and get their heads torn off. That's what when I realized that about him, I thought like it was directly from. Like I thought maybe this was like a continuation from the movie because it's the same characters. It's Hicks. It's
except we're missing Ripley, and
that's why I was like, "Where's Ripley?"
And the little that so this is the thing, right? I've learned a little bit of stuff that in the real world that Sigourney Weaver was not always interested in returning to the Alien franchise. Right. So like after Aliens, it's not like it was guaranteed that she's like, yeah, when's the next Alien movie? I'll be in it for sure. Right. Like it takes work for them to entice Sigourney Weaver back, moving the story forward. Like one of the things I just learned recently was that when she made a stipulation for Alien 3, she said no guns, which is an interesting choice. Like for some reason, like if you look at the first 2 movies, the first Alien and the second Alien are very different in their vibes, right? The first one's much more about containing its horror, exploring the situation, having the characters really fight. Whereas the second one is much more of an action movie, right? And it's by James Cameron, and that makes sense. Like of course, he makes the adrenaline up there. It's the things that he's good at. And so we introduced Marines, the Space Marines, and they're capable of actually fighting against the aliens. I do think that there's some weight to the criticism that is turning Aliens into an action story the appropriate thing. I like Aliens, right? I like what James Cameron did with it, but I do think that like it undermines a little bit about the Aliens' power itself because it's so strong and threatening in the first one, and they're kind of just wasting them so easily in the second one, where like it sort of robs them of their threat. So yes, maybe. So the reason why Ripley's maybe out of the story is that maybe Dark Horse doesn't have the rights to the Ripley character. So when they got the licensing rights to the comic, perhaps the Ripley character they said, so, maybe there is a story that we've missed here where it explained, and I do think I have some vague, like I said, I looked at that Dark Horse Presents thing, and it wasn't a story. It was more like, I don't know what it was. But I think somewhere along the lines that I did learn that Ripley's in a coma. So when they come out of cryo sleep, she, for whatever reason, didn't come out properly. So she's been put off to the side as a character. Her no story progression. That way, whatever happens in the real world doesn't interfere with it. Now, aging up Newt, who knows what happened. So I wouldn't, in my preference, as somebody who wants to see the continuation of the Alien story, I don't want to age Newt up. I want Newt to remain the character that I know she is. I want Hicks to be closer to the character I left over. And maybe he was before something happened, this whole thing with Earth being destroyed. Okay, so this dialogue. Right here, where he says, maybe you're burned out, maybe you want to die. That's a character spouting unnatural dialogue, so that way we know what's going on with Hicks, the reader, we know, without actually having to like tell the story and have Hicks demonstrate all these things, you know, like that's how you would really so it's a bad shortcut to basically skip telling real story. So you would have to actually tell story with Hicks where we start seeing like, oh, this Hicks, what's wrong with him? He's like not, you know, not really engaging with life and stuff like that. This panel, you know, you'd have to draw this just a little differently. I guess you could hand things that way, but you know, most of the time, I don't know. It's not like this gun presumably weighs some weight, right? Like 5-10 pounds. You know, how much does a real life? How much does an assault rifle weigh? There we go.
Oh, it's probably like 5 pounds.
6 to 7 pounds, right? Now that's not too heavy. Let's assume that, you know, this is future technology. It's also 6 to 7 pounds. But the way that you hand large objects and stuff, like, you know, there's a certain physicality to it. And so, yes, we can see the gun here, but this is a weird place for that gun to be. And so you would just change a little bit of the visual, you know, the body language and stuff to maybe make that more clear about how she's actually handing him a gun. This is great. You know, I believe this. He's got terrible trigger discipline, you know. So all right. So he says, we've only got 5 shots left. If they're on board, it'll be over soon enough. I take that to mean that they won't survive the attack.
Yeah.
Okay. This panel progression, I still don't know how to properly read through this page.
Yes. Yeah. There's some more like instances of this.
Okay. So let's go. You take over. What happened here? What's going wrong?
Well, you know, it's because you have the stacked panels on the left side there, and then the way that I read it, like, you know, little panel up top,
right here,
then to the right, to the full body shot of them coming through the door, and then the severed or the burned wiring, you know,
yes,
panel. That's how I read it. I think that's how you read it.
Now, there's multiple reasons why you're probably right, because visually, this is the continuation of the same information, right? This is basically the same shot. It's just that the door is moved up further. But when you read the dialogue, this could be like, it doesn't help. Like, the dialogue does not make it clear that they're. So he says, it's the only open space. They must be here. That works all right? Okay, they're going somewhere where they think the aliens are. He says, we've been through this, Newt. The cargo pits are code blocked. Like the rest of the damn ship, we couldn't get in if we wanted to. That doesn't seem like the follow-up.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a confusing.
And then he says, I think you want to find them. Like that might mean something. So I was like, okay, that must not, even though it looks like that's where I should read, I must actually have to go here. And so it's the only space it's the only open space. They must be here. Communications bundle, something tore it apart. Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense either. And so I came back up and I was like, okay, it must be here. And he says, I think you want to find them. Like that might mean something. And then communications bundle, something tore it apart. It's like it's like I'm missing panels. I went back up and I was like, did I miss a page? And I was like, it can't be. I'm reading one page. It's not like it jumps in such a weird way. Like visually, this is continuity. But his diet, like this is such a weird thing to say right after saying this thing. And then the fact that like it jumps to this is so, okay. Now, if he wanted to do this page layout, so like for example, I'm pretty loose with the rules of comic books, right? So like if you want to do a left stack panel, cool. But if you're going to do that, you absolutely have got to help the reader read how they're going to go. So part of the problem here is that the way you do that best, in my opinion, is to do balloons that lead the reader to the appropriate panel progression, right? So this balloon is the best way to have got us from here to here is not put this balloon here, which is actually bouncing out of the border of the third panel meaning it's encroaching. It's like the letterer saying you want to go from here to here. The reason why is because it's literally coming out at that panel saying, I'm next, read me. So you would go here, here, then this balloon should be put down here. That way there's no way that I think I go all the way from here, all the way down here. The reader would go boom, 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 boom. So this is an example where if the artist wants to do this, the letterer cannot do this word balloon because that's screwing with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with that, but ultimately, like, I read it the way that I did because of the word balloons, just because, I just followed like left to
Yes,
right.
that you went from here to here.
Yeah, to the larger panel at the top right.
Yes.
Because reading left to right, I'm like, okay, like I assume that's where they want me to go. I get what you're saying, but yeah, I mean, it's just not a good layout, like in general, and it doesn't help that the dialogue doesn't really make sense with what's happening.
Exactly.
It's just confusing in multiple ways. So yeah, that threw me off.
And let's jump back to the dialogue real quick. So this is Hicks saying it's the only open space. They must be here. When he says this line, we've been through this, Newt. The cargo pits are code blocked. It's as if he's responding to something Newt said. So maybe this is a lettering mistake. Maybe that was Newt's line. Maybe Newt is the one who says she's leading him there, saying they must be in here. And then he has a follow-up saying, we've been through this, Newt, as if he's like, I can't believe you're taking me over here. So maybe this is a lettering mistake.
Could be.
Because it's like in between these panels, she said something that we don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
I think I figured it out. I think I'm going to write an email to to Bob Panaha and tell him he screwed this up. Okay. So finally he says, first of all, he says these are code blocked like the rest of the damn ship. We couldn't get them if we wanted to. I think you want to find them, like that might mean something, even though they got in. And then he discovers some damage. Communications bundle, something tore it apart. What's that smell? Something burning. What the? Fire? Shit, it's the cargo hold. I'm going to guess this is the android up front.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, smoke triggered the fire system. She says, it's been burned with acid. So now we have some confirmation that the aliens presumably are actually on board because it's their acid blood. And then we cut here.
Oh,
and she says, it's dead. Oh, go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with this panel, the burning acid panel, I think he did a really good job of laying this out. You get the Hicks's line, and then the smokes, or the
foam or whatever, presumably.
Yeah, the foam or whatever sort of frames her up for her moment, and then we see what she's referencing with the acid. So like there, it's like a nice 1, 2, 3.
Exactly. We get exactly the information we need as we go. Bump, bump,
nice
bump.
Perfect
And
stuff. So maybe yeah. That
and then cutting.
Really nice. Everything before it is like very confusing.
Yes, this is all a mess. And then this is a nice, we move in. We got the acid, so we're framing our character, Hicks through it, and she's coming under the door, so we know exactly how she's progressing, where they're coming from, where they're going through. And then she says, it's dead. And he says, the others must have cannibalized it for blood. Hibernation chambers. This is terrible. I don't know what he's saying.
Right. I guess he was saying that the other aliens cannibalized this one for its blood or something.
That's the only thing that possibly makes sense. But then he follows it up by saying, hibernation chambers. What are you saying? Okay, so let's take it one thing at a time. He says they must have cannibalized it for blood. That to me is new information, right? I don't remember any mention in the movies that they want each other's blood for something.
Yeah. That was why it was confusing, and I was like, it can't be talking about the humans, so it must be the aliens. But I've never seen that happen in any of the alien stuff before, so
this would potentially be new behavior that the comic book writer is introducing. The other thing I thought was maybe they killed an alien to burn through the door to get out.
Mm.
And in that case, I wouldn't have used the word cannibalized, right? Like he should say something like, "Oh, they must have killed him in order to burn through the door," or something. You know, like I don't know, like if that's what it's, you know, like because clearly they used acid to get through.
Well, and also like she's coming under the door there, so it's
so
like,
it's opening up.
is it opening or was it already like partly open and that was off panel in the
Good
previous
point. So
panel?
I interpret that the door is closed and that it's opening, which is why she's going underneath here. But you're right, because we can't see it. We have no clear information. And so if it was open, then my theory about the blood being used to get through the door is no longer relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, you know, this comic book is beginning to fall apart, unfortunately.
The end is rough for me.
Yes.
It was rough.
All right, so he yells out hibernation chambers. I guess they didn't know that because the ship was locked up.
Okay.
And then she says, "I thought gravity drive made hypersleep obsolete." And then he responds by saying, "For humans, maybe." So something about this also seems to be the writer maybe introducing new lore. So he's creating potentially this idea of the gravity drive, where characters no longer have to be put into hypersleep. I don't know why you would want that as a storyteller, right? Like, why do you want your characters to be active the whole time, right? Like, the whole reason to use hypersleep is to traverse enormous amounts of space and keep the humans from dying along the way, right? Like, to stay alive. And so if you're going to use gravity drive, unless gravity drive is shortening that travel time, maybe that's
we don't know because we don't get an explanation of what it even is.
Unless that was in another comic or something like that, and maybe it was.
There's probably somebody out there that's like read this other comic and they're just like, like they're so
well, perfect. if you are that person, please type it for us and say what comic. Yeah. That way I can then go and look at that comic to read, because you know I did try to find the start of the Alien series. All right, so we now know that hibernation is not, or hypersleep is not necessary anymore. And then it says pods must have cracked on takeoff. Damn things have been aboard since the start. They've been waiting, feeding, until they matured, until they were ready. She says, I count 4 broken pods. One's dead. That means 3. So she's saying one's dead, 1 alien's dead. That must mean there are 3 aliens. But this whole thing from Hicks here, I find bad once again. Okay, I'm sorry. So if the door is opening, that's fine. If the door was already open, we need clear information here, right? Like, let's always try to find the solutions of what would have helped. Obviously, even though you can cannibalize parts of a machine or something like that, maybe don't use the word cannibalize, because it makes me think that the aliens ate this other alien for his blood or something like that. So maybe just don't change that. You know, maybe in this case, be more explicit. They used the blood to get through the door. And then, you know, maybe if the gravity drive isn't explained in a previous comic, give me some insight into the gravity drive. Maybe not here, but you know, some other time.
You're saying the other humans cannibalized the alien for the blood.
No, I'm saying the aliens, so there are 4 aliens apparently. That we now know that's good. We know 4 aliens here because there are 4 broken
the
pods.
aliens used the blood to like get out of
to get out of this room. So the aliens were. Yeah, my interpretation is that the aliens were sealed in this room. They're not smart enough to push a button to open the door.
Yeah.
And so they killed one to burn through the door so that they could get out.
I mean, that kind of makes sense, but then the door is open. So, it's confusing. Okay. I do think the art's getting a little bit better, though.
There's definitely, you know,
not that it was bad, but like, I don't know. It's like these panels coming up are pretty clear. That wide one there of Newt and Hicks is really nice.
Which one?
The kind of more narrow, more that
This
one
one?
there.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, the trouble though is that yes, you're right. The technical skill, the art is getting better, but for me when I read stories that I don't like or that don't make sense or something, like my head starts to hurt. And so by the time I'm getting to this panel right here, the Dutch angle is only making it worse. Like my head is beginning to feel foggy and heavy because I'm trying to make sense out of this thing. Like what is happening? What are you guys saying? Why are you saying stupid things? Why are you saying weird things? Like, because all of this like exposition, pods that must have cracked on the takeoff. Damn things have been aboard since the start. They've been waiting, feeding until they mature. Like, I just don't. I don't like that. I don't like the way he's talking in a like this like storytelling way, right? Like, if we were in the situation where literally foam is pouring on us, we're discovering that aliens are indeed on the ship, and you're over there waxing poetically at me, I'd be like, Chris, for Christ's sake, take this seriously,
Well, I don't know that you really need that information.
No, I can, part of it is that I can see that there are people in there and they don't look like they're alive to me, right? And if there's an alien, I can put two and two together. Probably some aliens got him, And then we move down. Like, this guy doesn't look healthy. I can see there's cracked glass here. I can see there's a dude literally leaning out of the glass. You don't have to tell me all this information, right? I especially don't need this. It makes it sound like they were planning things. They've been waiting, feeding until they matured, until they were ready. Like, I don't need that for the aliens. So the aliens are doing things. That's cool. All right, she says, I count 4. There's one dead. That means there are 3. He says, come on, we have to get up to the flight deck. We ought to. Okay, so first of all, let's jump back. So they've been on this ship. Hypersleep is no longer necessary. So when my theory in the beginning was that they woke up from hypersleep, and that's why they didn't know what the ship was, and they were discovering it. They're like, I can't control it. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know where we're going. Obviously, they never were in hypersleep. So this must be the continuation of another story. There must have been another comic book before this, and they rushed onto a ship that they didn't know or something, and they're now able to finally get through these different parts of the ship. Now, Newt was right. There was aliens on this ship, right? And so for Hicks to be like giving her a hard time, where it's like, you're crazy, Newt. You've always been crazy. And then finally they discover aliens. And I would prefer if he, I don't know, acknowledged he was wrong or something like that. Oh, Newt, you were right. Sorry about that. But he doesn't. Now he starts pulling around. We got to be able to seal off the cargo area from the main board. That might give us time to, you son of a bitch. I don't like that jump. I think this could be quite exciting. For the, we finally have an alien in an alien comic, and he's here to, be a threat. But there's no like drama. There's no buildup. It's humorous to me that he's cursing at it from this panel to this panel. I want the alien to be a genuine, like scary thing. When I read horror comics, and ostensibly this is a horror comic, I want to feel horror, right? I want it to be building something, tension, drama. That's not what we're getting here. This is a surprise. Pops out.
Now, could I propose something?
Yeah, please.
Maybe this is another lettering mistake. It's actually the alien. That's the Hicks, because Hicks walked in on him when he was taking a shower, dude.
Yes.
Like, I'm in the middle of a shower, bro.
Yes. Okay, now here we're back at some extremely bad dialogue. Okay, so I'm sorry. Yes, we're always trying to come up with how this could have been improved. So to improve this, though, it would take basically restructuring this entire comic book, restructuring this whole story. It needs to build drama, tension, all this stuff where the character is like expositing left and right. All of that needs to be actual storytelling. You have to devote panels and page space to revealing character, to revealing plot, right? You can't just have characters run around and then suddenly spout plot at us and then move forward. And especially if you want to build the tension and the horror of the alien itself, we need to feel the danger that our characters are in. Like, I love the alien universe, right? I have already internalized the threat of these creatures. So you don't have to do much in order to get me going on the potential danger that Hicks and Neuter in. But you can't make me feel danger like this. You know, like, oh, okay, it's here now. Especially when you then go into it like this. This dialogue. Okay. So let me just say, for me, what I want out of an alien comic, what I want out of an alien story is that these things are the worst thing you could be close to, right? Oh, yeah. Like, to be this close to an alien means certain death. And the last thing I want is for Hicks or any character to say, maybe we brought it on ourselves. It seems like you really are the next evolutionary step. Like, I want him to be terrified that his face, his brain, is inches away from the alien's mouth.
Right. Well, you could Go ahead. You could go from that, like, sort of big splash panel. You could get rid of the bottom two and then just go directly to the top
to this one
page. You know,
because that's the response I want. I want Hicks has been surprised by an alien, and in his fear and need to survive, he just immediately is firing. Yeah. Absolutely. Cut these two, because no character should ever say this while they're inches away from an alien.
Right. And then going back to your earlier point about the dream sequence, that's 2 pages, and those 2 pages could have been used for
actual story.
Yeah.
Yep. That's one of my most hated reasons. One of the other reasons for the dreams is it takes up space, and it has there's no valuable information there. You're literally wasting time.
With a comic, I mean, 4 issues, and maybe the writer, I don't know what comics this writer's written before, but
I purposely didn't look him up.
Well, just maybe it seems like they're maybe including more than what you can get done in this amount of time.
Yes.
In this amount of issues, or rather.
Yeah, you might be right. Maybe this is a guy early in his career hasn't learned proper story pacing and stuff, especially with comic books, right? Like 4 issues is going to go by real quick. Okay, so yeah, I like your suggestion. Let's turn this into, we would have built up appropriately where we actually feel something appropriate here, and then Hicks immediately goes into this firing mode. Now, this is extremely dangerous to shoot thing with a creature with acid blood at this close proximity, right? And we cut up here to this panel, and then this panel. I don't know what this panel is telling us aside from there's blood. I see this panel, the alien has hit the back wall and presumably died. So I guess this panel is just telling us that it's falling back. Falling back, has hit the wall, and then Newt says, Hicks is... Oh, yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was happening there.
Yeah, I would just cut this panel out because it's unneeded. Just go straight to this panel. She says, Hicks, it's burning through the hole. Don't let it touch you. Now, this is part of my problem, right? That the Aliens movie did introduce is how easily they're killed. This thing died so easily, it's not a threat, right? He's literally right next to it. The acid blood spatter has posed no danger to him, and it just died immediately. Well, done. She says, and now it's burning through the hole. Or says, Hicks, hurry, we have to clear the cargo.
Yeah. Another thing too is like they made a point of saying there's only 5 shots in that gun.
Yes.
And then, you know, you can kind of see it that top panel there. It looks like a 4 on there, but so is he only firing it once? Like, how many shots does he have
Oh, you're right.
left?
There's the 4. Barely. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, just I mean, to me, that's more than one shot, but I guess
Yeah.
not.
What we know about in the Aliens movie, right? When they shoot their guns, it's not a single fire. This thing is
Yeah,
like,
it's a burst. Yeah,
yeah. And so the moment that he shot, I was like, I knew he had 5. I just assumed he lost all of his ammo right there. Boom, done. Right? Because we know how the guns work. But spoiler, this is a single shot. As we'll go through and discover in a second, which means that this alien died even easier. That's how easy
yeah,
it is to kill an alien. One shot, it's done.
yeah.
Okay, so one of the problems that I have, once again, this might be a sign of maybe somebody earlier in their careers writing and stuff, but characters telling other characters things that they already know, right? So if this was me and you, you know, and you're Hicks in this, and I'm holding onto your shoulder like that in this instance, it's fine that she says it's burning through the hole. That's fine. Humans do, in fact, state the obvious. But then for you to tell me, don't let it touch you, I've been like, Chris, I know. It's alien blood, you know? Like, I just told you it's burning through the hole. I know not to touch it, you know? And then I'd be like, Chris, hurry, we have to clear the cargo. Like, you know that too, right? Like, there's instances where instead of characters spouting things like that, so like we the reader don't need to know that they have to clear the cargo, right? What does that mean? What do you think that means? Clear the cargo. What does that mean?
Okay, so now that we're like going through it's more clear to me what's happening. But I actually was confused, like what was happening here. So it burns through the hole, and then that causes like the blowout, right?
In this upcoming panel, this is we have a panel here that shows that the air is going out into space, and clearly
Right.
they're now being pulled in from the suction.
Yeah, that was not clear to me. Like what started that? So I mean, obviously, like it's burning through the hole, right? But
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't assume that was like to the outside, like the
right. Could it be just another room inside of the ship?
right. Yeah, yeah.
So this is the part where instead of having her say, "Hurry, we have to clear the cargo," if you really want to help the reader, um, you know, you could explain exactly that. You could say, you know, that's the outer hull, right? It's burning through the outer hull or something, and then in here we have to get out before the air. You know, like you would say something a little bit more explicit to help me. Now that not necessarily might be too on the nose, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, real humans do say things. Okay, Hicks would not have to be told if she says that's the outer hull. Hicks would not have to be told we've got to get out of here before the air, you know, leaks or something like that. So you would find a different, like, and we wouldn't have to be told that, right? The characters, the moment she said it's burning through the outer hull, that's probably enough for you and I to understand, oh, space is out there. And
Mhm.
so in this panel, she doesn't have to say we have to do anything. She just says, you know, she could just say we have to get out of here. That's fine to some degree. But she
The,
also
the other thing
couldn't.
that
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead and finish her.
Oh, I was just going to say she also doesn't have to say anything, right? This could be a silent panel. She says it's burning through the outer hole. Let's get out of here, or just them running because I know, geez, get out of there, you guys. It's the outer hole.
Yeah. I was gonna say like with the little inset panel of the acid burning through the hole, and then
Yeah.
that's a cool thing. I like what you did with the sound effect there, but it wasn't like super clear to me what that was exactly. It
No,
almost
it
like
took me
kind of
effort.
looks like energy a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, it was. This is a great idea to show like how it's being pulled, but yes, it unfortunately is not as clear as it probably
I
should be in
mean,
order to really feel the drama.
like a shot from the outside You
Oh,
know?
that would have been great. Yeah, to show like the actual like stuff getting pulled in. That would have been really great.
Yeah, the like foam or whatever going into outer space, maybe. I don't know,
And even
just
just like
something that.
this, acidy uh, miasma or whatever that is, whatever the appropriate term, that stuff would be going out. Yeah, all of that would be. Yeah, because it's pulling. It's enough for them to actually get pulled up off their feet. So to have the foam already being going out would have been great. And then get outside. Pressure hatches seal automatically. Not without you. Not great. I mean, I appreciate the idea that she wants to try and save him, but this is like this dialogue would have been great right here, where they're actually where he says, "Get out, the pressure seals automatically."
Yeah.
That would have been great because you can't say that. So in a comic book, to me, something I've been really trying to pay attention more and more is when you need dialogue to describe something that you cannot show visually, or at least you could show visually with a number of panels, right? So the idea that the pressure hatches seal automatically, you could do that in a couple panels where you show the door open, pressure goes down, you'd have some sort of readout saying pressure going down, and then the door would close and you could visually show that it closed automatically, right? But you don't need to do that. You can have Hicks say, "Get outside, pressure hatches seal automatically." But don't have that here where he's literally getting picked up off his feet. So he have it that here, cut that dialogue, and then this not without you. That's not good here either because you need a visual representation of her clearly trying to help him, right?
Exactly.
Here she's just trying to survive. So we need a scene where she's clearly like out and like maybe reaching back.
She's leaving her leg.
Using her leg.
So,
That's our plan. Yeah. All right. So now this is all right. It's not immediate, but it's immediate enough where the corpse of the alien is getting pulled out. So we know that it's getting strong enough that it's literally pulling up anything that's not holding on. And we got a nice panel here where Hicks is barely. I like this panel. And it's silent as well. It's just the visuals doing the storytelling. And then she says, "Hang on, Hicks." And we got once again a nice visual. He's got the gun out, and then he's using the strap of the gun. It's been closed in order to save himself. This is the first time I felt actual horror in this comic book because the blood is starting to come out of his nose, and I thought about the potential damage to the human body in order for that to actually start to occur. And that I felt. I was like, "Oh God, Hicks is actually in danger, not just from dying, but from like even if he gets out of this." He's not in great shape anymore. Something has happened that's actually damaged him. And then we have Override, damn it. Now, this is a jump in time, and we can barely tell that that's her. But that's fine, I guess, whatever. And then she says, "Come on, come on, come on, come on." Because the door is starting to open.
Yeah. Yeah, there seems to just be like a things that are happening that could use, a few more panels, but maybe there just wasn't the room for it or something.
Well, because that's exactly it, right? As a storyteller, and this is part of the problem with American comic books, the Frankenstein approach, is that in the writer's mind, the visual landscape inside the mind is infinite, right? And so when you're writing something, you can see everything. You see it from every angle. You have the limitless capacity of knowing your story. And even as somebody who writes and draws their own stories, you discover during the layout process, oh, actually, that doesn't work. That's going to be harder. I need more panels to do that here because it was so easy inside my head, but it's actually more complicated. And so when you have the Frankenstein approach of American comic books, you have a guy writing away, and then he sends it to an artist that he may never talk to, and that artist gets the script and is like, "What the heck? What is he saying? Maybe this." And so yes, but jumping back, the writer structuring the story in the first place is part of the problem, right? That if they don't have the proper pacing and allocation of narrative at certain points of the story, then yes, you're getting huge gaps of story told or condensed in single panel jumps, like it's just cutting. Like, and sometimes that's okay. Like right here, we cut to her overriding damn it, right? That's a huge gap. The last time we saw her, she was She was barely surviving for her own life, and then she's already opened up this panel and is already tinkering with it and stuff. That's fine. That's a fine cut. I know what she did between the gutters, right? But all right.
Well, I mean, you do know what she did, but at the same time, okay, when we last see him, he's hanging on for dear life. His nose is bleeding. Like, he's in a lot of trouble. And then, she just immediately is in this panel and like rewiring things and stuff. Like, that moment in between there, you really could have used that to build up
the drama.
The drama is to, like,
what is she going to do? How is she going to help?
But here we cut right to that. She's already in there. She's, I guess, doing what she needs to do to get.
That's a good point.
Doors open, and then boom, like she saves him basically.
Yes, that's a good point. Rather than let us actually feel the danger, the anxiety of actually trying to save Hicks, the writer just boom zips right through it. So that's a good point. Yes, it's robbing us of the actual drama happening. All right, so when he pulls himself out, once again, he's in bad shape. I think this is communicating that great. Like, I believe that Hicks is really not doing good. Yeah. Although now that I'm looking at the art here, like, so she, and I see the doorway, I see him pulling him in. I assume she's completed her mission, but now she's back to doing something.
Yeah, what is she doing? Like, it almost looks like she's like smashing it or something with her,
or simply doing more. Like, I started to like maybe, because the thing is the suction is still going, right? She hasn't fixed the hole in the hull.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's preventing the door from opening the whole way. Like, she's now, like, she's got to open a little bit, and then she's stopping it from opening. That way he can pull himself out without the doors going completely open. That's my interpretation of what she's doing there. All right. So then when he gets out, I don't need to see her close it. At this point, we can assume that she managed to get it closed again since she opened it. He says, cold, so cold, can't catch my breath. She says, you killed it. It's over. He says, no, 2 left, because she forgot, right? She thought, oh, whew, thank goodness all of that's over with. But thank God he's paying attention. No, there are 2 left. All right. So now they move up to the front. She says, it's clear. What is she talking about, Chris?
No, 2 left. Yeah, you don't know.
I thought, did I miss a page? Is there a page that didn't get posted up here? And while we're saying that, let me say, you and I, neither one of us own this comic physically, right? Most of the time we're trying to do this where one of us has actually purchased the thing, or in this case, I suggested this because this is how I do most of my stuff. I pirate things first if I don't know if it's good, to find out if I'm going to like it, and then I'll buy that thing, right? So in this case, I was really hoping that maybe there are other Alien comics that are actually good, but I won't be buying this one. So had this been good, I would have loved to actually purchase it. So we don't know if pages are missing or not, but she says it's clear. No idea what she's talking about. They says, ugh, stomach's on fire. And I thought, oh no, he's been infected by an alien?
Mm-hmm.
But then we get clarified. He says, the android, you were exposed to open space. You're suffering from the bends. It should pass with time. But now that's the perfect thing. You cannot show that visually, right? Mm-hmm. You can't show visually that his bends are going to pass with time. So that's perfectly acceptable to get me, the reader, to know what the heck's going on with Hicks, right?
Right.
What kind of mission would involve those things? And then Hicks says, hack, this isn't a military operation. It's a milk run, a damn delivery. And I was questioning, how does he know that? Like, they don't know where they're going. They just know they're going somewhere.
Well, I guess, is he assuming that because have they talked about that earlier, right? Where like it's on a pre-programmed path, and it can only accept transmissions. It can't send any out.
Now Hicks is Hicks is assuming this is a delivery. Now I assume he's referring to the aliens, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's saying They're just delivering that cargo. And because I interpreted the aliens as being an accident, that the ship did not intend to have the aliens on board.
Right. Yeah, I did too.
But Hicks is implying that they were purposely on board. And then Screech, oh my God, the hole. Now we know something is even worse with the ship. That's fine. I'm on board with this. Like, giant sound effect. She says, that little acid thing got worse. Okay, cool. And then we cut. Damn it, Newt. You can't go out there alone. They're still alive. I don't have any choice. And so this is not something that pleased me, right? So we go from revealing that the hull is, potentially getting ripped itself apart. The danger to me is the ship may not remain intact. And so then we cut here and she says, they're still alive. I don't have any choice. I was like, wait, what? What is she talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, here they are. They're in the cockpit. They've been safe this whole time. I don't know. I assume I would just remain in here, I guess. Or that they'd have to fix the hull. But she says, they're still alive. I don't have any choice. She says, we'll be blind in here. There aren't any external monitors. You'll have radio communication, and that's all. I'll find them. And so I was like, okay, all right. Maybe if I was on a spaceship, rather than just holing up somewhere and hoping things work out, maybe it is better to take the fight to the aliens. I don't know. She survived them once before, at least. Maybe you do want to go and make sure they're dead. If they're dead, they can't do anything more. So that's where I was like, okay, I guess maybe we'll go kill them. All right, so she zips up, and then we get an action shot here where she's finally the hero, and we get the confirmation that all the ammo was away. It was one shot. 4. She's got 4 left.
Yeah, I didn't. Does this little like middle sequence here of her suiting up work for you?
Well, it did here, and then she was suited up, but then it went back to her suiting up, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So no,
Like,
once I got over here, I was like, oh, whoops, backwards in time.
Like a nice design.
Yes.
But it doesn't, like the 4 little panels should be together, and then you get the reveal of her.
Because that's exactly it. We moved backwards in time. Yes. So you wouldn't get this symmetrical design.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you get what's going. Like, obviously, like confusing, but it's kind of like, like I want to see her like, A, B, C, D, and then boom.
Yes.
Like putting all the gear.
Yeah, we don't want to go A, B, boom, back to C and D. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yes, just put them all together over here, then the big boom shot. You just won't have a nice symmetrical image. All right. She says now here's my point. So I know that the hull is getting worse, and we should fix that probably. But then she says they're still alive. I don't have any choice. I'll find them. But then she goes outside the spaceship, and I was like, what are we doing here? I thought we were going after the aliens. All right. So she says a bunch of stuff that's not important for me to read out loud. Okay, then she says, I'm crossing over toward the main antenna. And now this is the part, once again, okay, I get it. So she says, I'm crossing over to the main antenna. Copy, Hicks! He says, I'm all right. Damn it. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know why. Copy, Hicks! I guess maybe he passed out for a second or something. Who knows? So that's not great. No good at all. Not good at all. All right. So then she says, nothing unusual yet. It's hard to see in the wait. They went in. And then we see this where it's back there. Now I had to back up because this balloon has led me into this panel. Right when we finally get the information they want in, I had to back up and see. Oh, there's scratch marks. On the hull.
Yeah.
So they want in to be tied right here with the revelation of the scratch marks.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to already move forward.
I did the same thing. You're right. It is because of that. Yeah, because you don't really like. I mean, you could see them, but they're not like super apparent right away.
For all I know, that's damage from just asteroids or debris hitting the ship from its mini runs or something like that, right? There's no reason for me to immediately assume that that was aliens outside the ship scratching on it. So now what this does is I go all the way back, and this screech right here, this giant screech, is not. So here's what I assumed that sound effect meant. That sound effect meant that in the cargo hold, the suction has now gotten strong enough that giant piece of metal got ripped off, and that the ship is now in danger. And that's why she said, "Oh my God, the hull." But I now realize that giant single screech is actually them scratching repeatedly at the hull. So this is a huge mistake. You want multiple scratch sounds. Scratch, 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 like that. Not one giant screech, right? And then we would go and discover, oh, they've been scratching at the hull. But that scratch, 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 scratch would tell us immediately something is scratching repeatedly. So that is how I would fix that.
Also, like the lettering it isn't like there's plenty of space for the lettering to be in this big panel.
I think he got paranoid that we wouldn't know where to go. And so he really wanted to make sure that we went from this panel to this panel.
But I mean, don't you think you would just go to that panel? Like,
yes, I'm joking. Of course. Like, there's nowhere to go but there.
Yeah. Also, like on the right side of the ship, I mean, you have like this giant
black empty.
Yeah,
exactly.
Put all the stuff there. Anyway.
So, yes. This is a lettering. This is not good. We want that information here. Now, okay. We get into this panel. We reveal that the alien is actually outside the hull. Now, this I'm intrigued by because there's some speculation that in the first Alien movie, and there's even maybe some indication that the alien can survive in the vacuum of space, right? Like once Ripley blows it out the hatch, it then holds on, like it crawls back into like the thruster, I think, indicating that it, maybe it won't survive forever out there, but it can do fine for a little bit. And so I dig the idea that they don't have to be in the ship. They can actually be crawling around on the ship. That makes them even more scarier and powerful. And of course, now here, this is, I will also say this is the second time that I felt, because I think that the story is finally actually giving us what we want, right? We have this nice revelation that they're out here and they were scratching to get in. And that's where the cockpit is, right? They could somehow sense that the humans were in there. There was life in there to go for. So that's scary. They were out there. They didn't realize it. And then, it's behind her. Oh my God. And here it is sneaking up, right? And then we get this nice 4 panels of its, with red lighting on her face as we're closing in, the mouth reflected in the, like this, I actually felt the first time the threat of the alien that I want in these comic books. And her big no, which is then immediately robbed by just shooting it once again, especially in close proximity with the acid blood.
She shot twice. She shot
twice.
That's
what I'm saying. Okay, because we have a 2 here. So this was the first shot. Now, is this the third shot? We don't know yet. Maybe we'll find out. And then she said, no. Recoil, can't get footing. I don't want that to be told to me. I want that to be more explicit in the drawing, which it probably could have been if she just said, I don't know. I didn't love that. Because I like the idea, like you're out in space, you shoot a gun, like maybe she doesn't have, like literally her boots don't have any kind of like locking mechanism or anything like that. So yeah, I believe that she could get thrown off, and that's exciting, right? It's dangerous. That's one of the most terrifying things to me about space is the idea that you just go floating off in your spacesuit and no longer able to get in there. And then I don't know how strong this cable, this like air hose is. I don't know if that's a huge threat. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the danger here. I like it. But once again, I don't like how simple the aliens are just dealt with, and his sort of humorous pose as he dies. Oh. And then ugh, shit, blaster's gone. So she lost the gun. That's fine. That's fine. I buy it. And who knows? She maybe had one to no shots left anyway. It's just no sign of the other. Maybe it was blown clear when Hicks opened the. Oh God! It says, Newt, where is it? Inside the rear thrusters. It's been waiting for me. It's giving the alien a lot of credit. That when it crawled back there, it was like, I know she's coming back here to the thruster. This is it. I'd rather it just be that she discovered it was there. Oh shit, it's here. All right, so Hicks, we can access the thrusters if we Hicks. I assume he's passed out. Yeah. Now is this about this is where you realized he was half of body?
Yeah.
All right, it says, so this is Newt saying, the aliens seemed to hesitate, and I sensed a moment of recognition. All right, what did you make out of that?
Oh, I don't know what to make of that. What do you make of it?
The first thing I thought was, this alien recognizes her from the second movie, that somehow it was around or knew, and it was like, oh, you're that little girl we tried to kill back on that. Then I thought, well, that can't possibly be. And I thought, oh, well, what if she's implanted, right? Because meaning that if she's carrying if she's already been face hugged and she has an alien inside her, then it would be like, oh, I don't need to do anything with you. You're already good to go, right?
Yeah.
So that was my two thoughts.
That makes sense.
I'll just say this: that light beam, fantastic. Lighting on that, on the alien there being lit up by all that.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, love it. Yeah. It says, Newt, stay clear of the engines, and then here it is creeping on her. And this is the thing, right? I want this to be the most dangerous situation, but this comic has done this multiple times to show that she's actually in no danger. So the more you keep doing this and it has no negative repercussions, now I don't feel anything, right? She's fine. It says the alien enjoy. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I had a problem with this because she's. I mean, I guess maybe what you're saying could be true, right? Like why it doesn't attack her, but it does have her, and then it's like the way they get rid of the alien is,
Yeah, so we jump ahead. So the android crawls over and he pulls the switch, and we see that somehow from this, where its hand is literally on her faceplate, to here, not only has she escaped its grip, but she also luckily got outside of the actual blast that is literally killing the alien. Yeah, this is, maybe this could have been solved purely by visual, right? Where in these panels, instead of showing it creeping on her, we see her fighting desperately to get out of the thruster and away from it just for this panel, right? Like she barely gets away from it.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need to see how because it's a cheat to just go straight to here and be like, surprise, she survived, and the alien, of course, died. And it died because it says, in the black vacuum of space, death. Oh, whoop, right here. It says, and I took pleasure in watching it burn. So there's confirmation that this is actually destroying this alien.
Yeah, I mean, what if she unhooked her
Oh, that'd be great.
So that it could blow her away from the alien, and then she's still holding it, maybe, but
right, in order to not totally
propel her away.
That's great. What you're trying to do is you're trying to bring what the story needs, which is actually resolving this climax moment, right? Like this is the most critical moment. This is the last alien. She's in a tremendously dangerous space because not only the alien could kill her, but the thruster will kill her. And rather than trying to solve that problem, the artist and the writer just she got out. Where you're actually trying to build narrative, an actual story.
Again,
which
it's maybe another example of there just isn't enough pages to tell the story that they're trying to tell the best.
Maybe
way,
not. or at the very least, they'd have to heavily restructure and cut, some of the useless garbage. Yeah, more than likely, they probably do need more than this single issue to tell this story as well as they should or needed to.
Yeah.
All right, so then we cut back out, and she's caring for Hicks, and then she says, "I tried to remember how he looked before he was like this. We began to pick up coded signals over the restricted military channels and realized we were heading for our final destination. I wanted the nightmare to be over. Okay, so now they're landing." She says, "Maybe that was my mistake. For the first time since it started, I'd let myself hope." And it's opening up. It says, "The alien would never have such weaknesses." And then we have this. "Maxwell Dowling, get down to the cargo hold and see what you can salvage." This is something I struggled with when I got to this section. And I was like, oh, I don't feel like we're meeting new characters. I don't feel like we've arrived somewhere. I don't feel like I'm really getting this, even though I see that we're landing. I see that it's opening and these people, I don't feel like it. And, in another comic book, you would have a nice clear shot of these people. It wouldn't be like this, like it wouldn't be this little itty bitty image. And then we get down to this last panel. He says, "You bastards, if you've damaged my specimens, I'll see you hang." And this is a good final image to show that they've got a bunch of aliens and stuff. But I just didn't feel like I needed to in this situation. I needed to be introduced to this general or military man or whatever he is in some way that he was a real character to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, so maybe if instead of staying with Newt and the Android Man, we went into this base and the general man was like, the ship's arriving. Like, what? He's immediately like, they have. So this story has confirmed in this issue that they cannot send transmissions. They cannot send communication, right? So wouldn't this guy be stunned that people are like weird people are coming off of his boat or his ship, like all of that stuff. Like, so like we could have built into that. We could have seen him, where he's like, "Oh, the ship's coming in," and maybe he knows somehow, and they would have to explain why he would know. Or we would get the moment where he's like, "Who the heck are you people?"
Yeah.
And if you've damaged my specimens, because I want to know what he thinks of these. Who are they? How much danger are they in just from him? Like, okay, so that's the end of the issue. I do not love it. I don't want to read anymore. What's your final takeaway?
I would read more only just because like I want to know what's going on a little bit.
So I'm glad you said that. The way that this writer has in this issue shows me that there's nothing, he can't bring anything. There's no payoff because he can't. This hasn't been a good story. That whatever happens will be more stuff, but it won't actually amount to anything. I don't have the confidence in that based on what I've read right here. That's my personal. That's
like back to the beginning because I'm like maybe I missed something.
What do you mean?
I don't know, just like them on the ship and stuff. Like,
yeah. Now we probably just reading through this. There probably is some sort of issues or miniseries before this. Probably just it seems like, and I'd be willing to check that out if it's written by somebody else. Like I don't know if I told when we decided to read this last time, but I read just randomly. I just picked Alien Genocide to try out, and I loved that. And it was written by John Arcudi, who I think I know him primarily from The Mask, and so I know that I can like some Alien comic books. That some of it can be done well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to continue forward with this miniseries, and I will probably avoid any comic books written by, at least Alien comics written by Mark Verheiden. But I will check out more Alien comics. I will check out more Predator comics, so long as, and especially if John Arcudi writes any of them, because I know he can deliver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but I don't think.
You would, as the like if there was some other time, you're not where I'm at, where I'm just completely done.
Well, I mean, it's like there's some answers that I want, but it's not. They're not like they're not like questions that um, like that they they're not questions that like the writer wants me to know the answers to. That's just confusing stuff to me, you know.
Okay, like give me some ideas there of exactly what you mean.
I'll give you some ideas.
Yeah,
Just like their relationship to the ship they're on, you know, like they
oh yes, how they get there, why are
how they
they?
get there, all that stuff. Like yeah, I'm kind of curious about all that. I kind of like as we were going through the issue too, man. Like I was sort of liking the art a little bit more and more. You know, like the last panel. You know, like I really like the little soldier guys, like body type, like the way he characterized him and stuff. And,
The, yeah, yeah.
and
The
it looked
art,
like pretty cartoony, you know. And
yes, yes, yeah,
and then
absolutely.
the frame, as the ship doors are opening, you know, like the chains in the foreground there. Like that's
Mhm.
a this guy's really good at backgrounds.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's fantastic. Because like I look at like this hand, for example, and this is just more like the idea of a hand.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but
it's all like it's like very cartoony, you know, and kind of like I wonder what this guy went on to do. Did he do more comics or did he go work in like maybe games or something?
let's look him up real quick. Dennis Bovice.
I bet he's really good now. You know, I mean, he was good then, but
He won an Eagle Award in 1988 for favorite comic book cover for Aliens.
oh wow.
He's also done work for Dungeons and Dragons, including 13 covers for Dragon. He also worked on the Predator comics.
Oh, okay.
So, not too much here.
I looked up Dave Dorman, also his alien work. There's a ton of stuff, and it's all awesome. His
You
alien
looked him
stuff.
up right now?
Dave Dorman. Well, earlier I did, yeah. I can share a little bit of it.
Okay. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Anyway, yeah, let's wrap up on the issue there. Our final take, I guess. And then we can do other stuff. Get into what we've been up to.
Final take. Garbage.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it was there was more confusion than I like in a comic, you know. So I don't know what happened, but
Happened in the production or happened in the story?
well, I mean, I understand the story.
Yeah, I'd say the story is clear enough.
But yeah, I don't know, you know. Like I would like to maybe know more about the circumstances, you know. Was it the artist? Was it the writer? Was it both? Like what was this? It'd be nice to see the script, you know.
It would be very nice to see the script. Yeah, that would, and maybe in the future we can try to find those ahead of time, just to see if they are out there. That would be very cool. Yeah, I mean, because certainly
there's definitely comics that have the scripts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good amount of those out now, so that'd be a good thing to cover and kind of compare and see what the artists how they handled things.
Absolutely, yeah. Because first and foremost, you just have a different brain trying to interpret these words, but definitely the artists can drastically misrepresent the writer's intentions. So that is absolutely the case. The artists are not above criticism themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's just harder for us to be able to, because so much power relies in the writer's hands. It's very difficult looking at the final product to try and figure out like it's just so much easier to assume that the writer is the one responsible for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So I saw you post up in regards to personal projects. I saw you post some of at least the design for the main character of your thing. I was surprised about how he didn't look anything like what I thought it would look like. I guess like I guess I pictured some sort of like fantasy-ish kind of vibe to it, and instead he's rocking basically what I think of as kind of a superhero suit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I had initially was gonna do something a little more like sort of Roman inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just could never get anything to look like cool to me. So then I just like was like, let me just try and like do something that I like the way it looks, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have more freedom then to kind of, but like I don't know if you remember, like a long time ago, I wanted to like I want to incorporate some of these like older cultures and stuff, but I do want to maintain that kind of feel of like superheroes. I'll show you so I designed like his son, and I'm trying to keep like the colors like saturated and simple. I want to have like that superhero feel, but there will be like fantasy elements. So
yeah, I liked the way it looked a lot. It was really cool.
Yeah, should I share some of the?
Sure.
So let's see how we do this. Yeah, so I did the kid, and actually, like, I'll ask you while I have you. You're not, you've done some character type stuff, but I ran into like a little bit of a. Well, I'll show you, and then I'll explain what I'm talking about. Let's see. Yes. Maybe I can't do this. Hold on. Hold on a sec. All visible windows on your screen. Share. Saying that it can't access my screen.
Hold on. That's weird. So you hit like present down here at the bottom?
Yeah. Maybe let me try from the bottom. Share screen. Yeah, it's telling me I can't do it. Maybe
all right. Well, next time you'll be in charge, and then presumably it'll because you're the one who'll have the permissions of the screen and stuff like that. So
yeah, it might be that. That might be part of it.
So, share next time.
Bummer.
All right. Well, making progress then.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I've done some characters. I posted some stuff on my Instagram, Staggs art. But yeah, the main character who's a father, and then some of his. I posted like some expressions and just like head, kind of trying to work out his design, and then the son I did yesterday. So I basically have him done. But like I'll tell you the issue that I ran it. Not issue, but I was gonna make like I started like a lineup, right, where I had the father and I put the son next to him, and so like when I put the father and the son together, like the dad's head looks like it's pretty small compared to like his body, like his proportions, and then the kid's head is bigger, but then if I size the kid down to like be kid size next to the dad, it makes the dad's head look like super duper small. Like when you see them together, it looked like really odd. So I actually had to like increase the size of the dad's head so that so the two of them in a relationship to one another made sense. And it got me thinking like when you're doing like character design and you're doing a lineup like that, you're dealing with like cartoony proportions and stuff. Like how do you how do you solve that problem?
Well, how old is the son?
He's like 12-ish.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, because
13.
part of the cartooning language is the larger head on kids, right?
I mean,
In order to
his
help.
head. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, in order to help communicate that sort of youthfulness, right? The
Sure.
proportions of the child body as opposed to an adult body and stuff. So I think that there is a lot of forgiveness. Like we expect to see that with the youth represented. But and it would obviously be much more helpful to see exactly, because in some cases, like I'm trying to think of something like I don't know, the Batman or Superman animated series, right, where there might be a child character around, and how the shape of that child character's head is going to be very different from like Bruce Wayne's head or something like that. Or even like, I don't remember how often we ever saw Bruce Wayne or, but now that you're making me think about it, it'd be very interesting. Because in the very first Superman episodes, we get to see Clark Kent as a kid, and the way that Bruce Timm presumably would style the skull of child Clark Kent and adult Clark Kent are probably pretty different, right? In order to get the kid version of him, whereas like, I assume if I saw a photo of you when you were 6 or 7 or 12 or something like that, your skull shape's probably pretty close to the skull shape it is now or whatever. I don't know. So there's something very interesting there about the freedom, perhaps, of character design with youth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I've heard is like your skull stays the same size as from like when you're a little kid to as you get older. Like that's why kids' heads look so big.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
I mean, I guess that leads some credence there to the idea that the proportions of the child. I mean, that's part of something that, just while we're on it, not about what you're doing, but one of the criticisms that can often be lobbied at artists is they forget / don't bother to make the effort to actually look at what a child's body looks like, and they just draw small adults.
Right.
Because that's just it. Kids' bodies do not look like perfect representations of what they'll become as an adult.
Yeah, I'm distracted because I'd like if I could just share my screen and make more sense, but I don't know why it's not working.
All right. Well, yeah. Hopefully next week when you're in control. Yeah. Speaking of next week, real quick, let's discover. So we did a comic book today, so we're gonna do a manga next time. Anything you got a list of possible?
I mean, so like here I have Pluto. I have the first book of Witch Hat Atelier.
Okay, let's do Witch Hat Atelier. I read part of chapter 1 a few years ago. I don't even know if I made it all the way through. I really loved the art, and I wasn't against the story. But for whatever reason, I never made it back to it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm picking it now, because it'd be great to actually absorb it.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Witch Hat Atelier, chapter 1. Okay. And just, I guess, to follow up to things that I was doing. Last time I started posting on Webtoons with Power Stars. It's been a lot of fun adapting the pages to the Webtoons format. And it's encouraged me, motivated me, inspired me to actually finally really start getting back to volume 2. And that's what I've been doing as well, as making progress on the volume 2 pages of Power Stars. And I think that, what I've seen, Power Stars is for 8 to 12-year-olds. That's the primary goal. And, obviously I hope that someone like me who loves kids comics and kids cartoons anyway could still dig it, even at, no matter the age. But, that's not who the primary readership of Webtoons is. So it hasn't taken off like a rocket. And it got me thinking about, the idea of why we make what we make, and thinking about like, what am I doing here? And would I work on this even if like nobody wanted to read this, like if Power Stars was just purely for myself? And I would. I'm returning to the world, and like, I'm so happy spending my time, and that's why I built it. I built it to be everything I want out of something, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I've always thought about because I have four main characters, and two of them are guys, and two of them are girls, and that was always so that way I could, like, as a kid, my younger sister, she had like the classic '80s girl stuff. She had the Barbies, the My Little Ponies, Rainbow Bright, Care Bear stuff, and I dug all of that. Like, it was all really cool to me. It's obviously not what I would ask for or collect, but I really appreciated the girls' kind of like toy stuff and cartoons as much as I appreciated the stuff that I was into. And so, creating Power Stars, I was like, you know what? I might as well give myself an excuse to create my girl toy kind of stuff as much as my boy toy stuff. So, like, Rockhead Leader Red, she lives in Lava Law, and it's been really fun to design basically an environment that is not classically what a boy would be into. Like, there's jewels embedded in all the worlds. A lot of things sparkle and stuff. Like, like, it's just been, but it's fun because, like, I get to draw like the more heavy, like duty kind of boy toy stuff. I say toys because that's what I think of all of the world as toys and action figures that are alive and doing stuff. The environments that would be, like bones and spikes and things, and then I get to go and spend more time in a happier, easier going place or whatever. So it's been a blast. And if nobody wanted to read it, I would still create it. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And here's the good news: nobody's reading it.
I mean, it takes time for some of this stuff to get.
Yeah, that's the part of. Sorry, that was the other part I want to before I let you go and to say all the stuff you're going to say. Becoming more comfortable with time. Like, yeah, if anybody ever is going to really read this, it's only going to be because eventually I just keep posting stuff and people find it. There's no rush to this thing. There's no, I shouldn't be measuring it like, oh, I didn't get 10,000 views right away, so therefore my story sucks.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, so much of that is not in your control necessarily. I think that kind of like what you said, you'd be doing it anyway. I mean, it's like the reason that you do your own thing is because you want to do you want to work on something that is exciting to you and that makes you want to do your best and be your most creative and stuff. And I think like that's gonna bring out the best work from you as like a creative person, and then which will give you sort of like the best chance of actually getting people
connecting with an audience.
to connect, because you're putting everything into it because you're having fun and you care about it and stuff. And I think it just it takes time sometimes to get that to people that they don't know it, but that's kind of like something that they're looking for, or
and the only way that anybody's ever going to find it is if you keep making it, keep putting it out there. Don't get. And I'm talking to myself here. Don't get bummed out because the audience isn't. I mean, the audience may never show up, and that's the point. But the audience can't show up unless you keep going.
Sure. Yeah. Keep having fun, man. Keep trying to do like your best work, and then hopefully it gets to the people who are looking for that kind of a thing. So yeah, man, I think you just keep going with it as much as you can.
I'm going to, and you too. All right.
Well, I don't have a choice. I'm like, I'm having fun though, man. Like I don't know, I had an idea actually just came up to me that just came to mind as we were talking. But like, I mean, before I kind of like talked about like having a hard time sort of like stripping away details and doing something like kind of cartoonier. But I think I've figured that out recently. So we'll see as like the designs kind of progress if I can keep them sort of consistent in that sense. But that what I was thinking, man, is it might be kind of fun to like do. I don't know if it would be like every week or something, but just sort of mention a couple things that we're like excited about, or that we like, or that we've seen recently. That,
Hmm.
like I on the way back from visiting my family, I watched The Boy and the Heron, the newest Miyazaki
Oh,
movie,
okay, cool.
and as so cool, as always, like super creative and like visually just really amazing, So, or it could be, so I'm excited about that. Like, I
Hmm.
want to rewatch it, where I'm not on a plane and I can actually like focus on it and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, maybe it's like toys you're excited about, or even like,
Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
or
I
comics
mean,
or anything, just
yeah.
like,
At the moment, the most exciting things that I'm doing or experiencing, I guess, are there's webtoons that I found a year ago, and I read a bunch of it then, and then I read it, I think, all the way to the point where the creator was at, and I had to wait for new chapters, and then I waited a whole year, so I started from the beginning, and I'm rereading it. It's called Skin and Bones, and it's not the usual sort of thing you'd find on webtoons. It's really a big reason why I decided to post Power Stars at all, because I was like, oh, well, if this person's on here doing their own, unique thing, I can be on here doing my own unique thing too.
mhm.
um, Skin and Bones, really fantastic
Hmm.
comic book webtoon.
Yeah, and it's like
Possibly,
more. Who's that geared toward? Do you think?
um, certainly an older. You know what? I'm going to bring it up
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way.
I think you can share, right? Do you have
Yes.
anything to share, Ben?
Okay. So webtoons. Then we'll go here. Skin and Bones.
Oh, cool. There's like something about just like a skull face dude is always it just always works,
Yes, and as far as I don't know who this artist, the online handle is Almighty Connor Bono.
Hmm.
Uh, Whoever this person is, draws a fantastic skull face. I love looking at the character is Bones. That's the character's name.
No, okay. Super creative name.
Yes. Well, but part of the thing that's interesting is that this person is presumably not um, English or American. So and sometimes you can tell that in the dialogue. That it's not perfect English or something like that. So part of me wonders, like, how that works in meaning that like in some manga or anime or something, like they'll use an American word, or excuse me, not an American word, they'll use an English word uh, to name a character or a thing, and then that's just normal to us, where it sounds cool and exotic to them or something like that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like maybe she's using the English word bones, which wherever she's at would be like, whoa, cool, an English name. And then for us it's just like, yeah, it's just another word. uh so I do wonder about that kind of stuff, but you can this so the little I understand is that the creator wrote this as a novel at first,
Mm.
and couldn't get it published, so decided to make it into a comic book.
Okay.
And not the the most technically skilled, but all of this is really
I like
stylized
it.
in an attractive way.
Yeah.
Really great colors and stuff, like simple colors. There's not too much rendering, but there's always a nice atmosphere. And I think it's a she, so I'm just gonna start saying she from now on. She does a really great job of using dramatic lighting, right? So we're casting this in blue, and then we shift to a yellow, and like instead of doing local color for him, he's now all in yellow,
Mm-hmm.
in order to give these, like, right, boom, now we're getting all yellow in this nice fight sequence. So it's moving between really fun dramatic lighting in order to pop different sequences. Like, boom, she's local color with blues. Am I using that term right? Local color, like the actual color her skin would be.
Yeah.
Okay. And then of course all the fight done in yellow to help separate, like all that sort of stuff. But the actual narrative, I would say, is for for an older person, not for kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's murdering this guy, with her stick of nails and barbed wire or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, but fantastic story, engaging narrative, really excellent work. So that's the comic book that I'm really enjoying. And then as a kid, I was never in. I'm not much of a sci-fi guy, and I wasn't into Star Trek at all for the majority of my life. And then my buddy Dustin Weaver said that he actually liked Star Trek, and he slowly convinced me to give it a shot. And I've discovered that I do, in fact, really dig it. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as a kid ever because I was much, cartoons and all that sort of stuff were what I was into. But now that I'm an adult and my appreciation has expanded, I've been watching Star Trek Next Generation. I'm on season 4 now, and it really is fantastic. I'm having the best time, and like nice. The younger version of me would have beat myself up, but that's his.
What about the original series?
I love the original. I've watched, I think, the first and second seasons, or at least part of the second season, and I love all that too. Super great.
Yeah, that's like a cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, it's got some really great dramatic elements to it, though. Like some really just tremendously engaging story. And like really, really powerful narrative. Like, did you watch any Star Trek?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you, as the original series, do you remember the one where Bones, the doctor, he gets accidentally injected with something that makes him kind of go crazy, and he jumps back in time?
Vaguely.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, there's some fantastic, powerful, kind of like Twilight Zone-y drama in there.
Yeah. There were some fun episodes. Then you go to like a Western town once. It was like a plan. It was like
I don't think I've seen that one.
Where it's like Westerns, and then of course was it the Furbies? Or not
the Tribbles. I just watched that episode. Yeah,
and then of course it was a Gorn, like where he fights.
The Gorn are the like weird reptile dinosaur kind of guy. It's a perfect example where I think that the story is really great for that episode. They just can't execute on the level that it needs to be. Like, I really dug the story. And okay, just while we're on the topic real fast. So Star Trek to me is like Godzilla, where I love the old Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
And part of what I was always doing as a kid was sharing some of the workload, right? Where I knew that I wasn't seeing what I wanted to. And so in my imagination, I was filling out the gaps, right? Like giving them the leeway and be like, yeah, but it would really be like that, And so when I'm watching that Star Trek stuff, the old series, and to another degree, the newer series, the 80s and 90s stuff, I'm doing, and I think that's a good thing, though. I think and to me, that's part of the problem with like modern day movies and cinema, like CGI and stuff like that, is that there's no room for the audience to coexist, to help co-create. Now, obviously, you don't want to go all the way into the place where Star Trek is, because that's not enough. But I'm co-creating. I'm doing some of the work to imagine how that Gorn really should be. And he would be actually this dangerous to Kirk, and like, when he throws that rock, that could actually be like this and way cooler and stuff. So I'm seeing all of its potential in here, and totally forgiving what I'm seeing on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I did that, but sort of like, I just, as a kid, like, I just accepted it, like I didn't, I just was like, oh man, I loved Godzilla as a kid, man. It was like my favorite. I still love Godzilla, but but you watch them now, it's a different experience,
Exactly. But you either are willing to forgive and co-create with them, or it's a lost, and that's what I can do. Thankfully, I can still co-create, with them. I still am doing a lot of work to imagine, like, and here's how the water would really move if he was coming out of the ocean and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, man. Well,
all right.
I mean, and the things I think that look kind of like the best now. I mean, VFX people, I probably argue about this, but like, when you combine, sort of like the advances in materials and stuff. So you're combining like practical things with VFX, but you're still like, I just saw a thing about, I watched a guy's video. I forget the channel name, but it was about Terminator Salvation, I think, the one with Christian Bale.
Oh yeah, I never saw that one.
And he was just like talking about like why, like, parts of it looked so good, and it was because they built like the Terminators, kind of old school, and they but they combined it with sort of newer VFX techniques at that time, so it kind of, and they had people like stand in for the Terminators when there was fight scenes and whatnot, where they could actually interact with them, so that there was a real like weight to everything, and
yes,
just made it more real feeling, So
yeah, I think there's something to I'm not an actor. I've done very little of it, but I think that even when you're acting and you're like on everything's fictitious, everything's made up, but when there's an actual thing for you to, or a person for that matter, right? Like let's use two people, like even if it was me and you, but we decide to act, and my role is to be like really scary, because I'm actually there, because I'm actually doing things, I think you can't help but sort of, on some level buy into it. And so like, yeah, if there's like a fake, creature or something like that, rather than a totally blank nothingness that you're pretending to act to, that, or yeah, like a great example is like, when people use like puppets or things, right? Like, that puppet's not there, but because it has a face on it and it's starting to do things, some part of you is now accepting that thing has become alive. Not, you never forget that it's not, but like you could interact with it in a way that if it was completely empty, you wouldn't, if there was nothing there and you had to pretend that something was there. Yeah. I think always, if there's some, like, in terms of movies, if you can give your actors something, it'll always be, even if it's a stand-in, like you said, because now there's an actual thing there, not just for them to act against, but also like if you're trying to, I haven't seen that movie, but let's say that they had, like a pipe and they're like hitting something, right? The actual like reality of hitting something will be more, like you can act like you hit something or whatever, but the actual hitting,
right, yeah, makes a difference. So yeah, it's you can kind of like, I think, do yourself a disservice by leaning too far into, like, let's just do everything digitally.
Yes.
Like, no, man, it's like, it's good if there's real stuff still, but yeah. So you're working on volume 2, and what are you doing? Like at this point, are you writing or layouts or?
No, I've done all the writing and the layouts, thankfully. So it's just execution. It's just a matter of doing the line art, the colors, and the lettering.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Awesome. And then are you doing the second one to like also be printed, or are you thinking like more webtoons?
I would love to do the print, but so we did that successful Kickstarter for volume 1, which earned, I think, 1,900 something, and the actual print cost was $8,000, nearly $9,000.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I paid that out of my pocket initially, and then I did the Kickstarter to see if printing number 2, like if I didn't have to do it out of my pocket, the Kickstarter. But the fact that once again, it's for 8 to 12-year-olds, and that's not, they're not on Kickstarter. That's not, there's only so many people so many adults I can expect to want to support kids comics. I don't think that there probably will be unfortunately a print version of 2, and there's 3 volumes in total, 2 and 3, unless once again I pay it out of my own pocket.
Yeah,
just because I don't believe that even though some kids comics do on Kickstarter earn around $8,000, $9,000. I just supported one myself called Water Racers, I believe, and he got up to that, but I don't know how he did that. I don't know what I don't have the audience that he seems to have built somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it boils down to, I guess. What about like print on demand? Is that like an option?
Unfortunately, print on demand is really built for prose novels where not much ink and no color, right?
Yeah.
So you can do print on demand graphic novels, but those have to be a relatively small number of pages, because full color and high number of pages, like, so my graphic novel is 225, 230 pages. Just the math alone of what it costs Amazon to do print on demand means that book, for them to print it themselves, cost, for graphic novel volume 1, I think was $39 and something cents. And so I would have to charge 39 whatever plus.
Yeah.
That's just to cover the cost, right? So I'm not
Right.
even making any money at that point to continue to try and make things. So yeah. So if I did print on demand, somebody would have to be willing to pay $40 in order to have the volume. And as much as I love my Power Star story, it is for 8 to 12-year-olds. It is not a $40 worth story.
I mean, it's pretty massive, man. I don't know. I think.
Yes, but I think I don't know. I think if you're an adult and you're coming at this being like, all right, I spent $40. And I read this, in 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, I would love for somebody to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. Might be something to look into a little bit more. I mean, there's different places too that do print on demand. So I don't know.
I think the high page count plus full color will always, unfortunately, result in. Yeah. And I can't chop it up because it wasn't designed to be chopped up. It was
right. Yeah. We're learning,
Yes, exactly.
Were there any questions or no?
No. We're in the same phase of me posting webtoons, where if we keep doing this and we get better at it and have better graphics and let people know it exists and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
then maybe somebody will ask a question.
On the stream, no questions?
Nope, Jeff didn't make it today.
Oh man, Jeff let us down.
All right.
Cool, man.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. Hopefully I can host it next time and share some stuff. So I should have some storyboard stuff to show. I did board out just a quick little scene.
From your personal project?
Yeah. Well, that's all I'm working on. I mean,
yeah.
Either the character designs or the roughing out some boards. I did one scene, and then the next one I'm working on this little fight sequence. So maybe I'll have a roughed out fight sequence to show and get some feedback on. So,
all right, 1 week to get it done. See you
all
later.
right, man. Cool, dude. Good show.